Power does not always come from force. It does not always roar. It does not always show its teeth. Sometimes, the most devastating move you can make is to surrender. Not forever. Not completely. But just enough to draw your enemy closer, to let them think they've won. Because in that moment, when they've dropped their guard, when they've underestimated you, when they've started celebrating, that's when you strike. Law 22 is not about giving up. It's about giving in strategically. It's about using surrender not as defeat, but as a hidden attack. A delay. A distraction. A trap. We're taught to fight. Stand tall. Push back. We're told that surrender means weakness, submission, failure. But the truth is, surrender can be the most intelligent move in a room full of blind aggression. Because power isn't always about resistance. Sometimes it's about redirection. When you surrender, you shift the battlefield. You take the heat off. You stop feeding their fire. And in that calm, in that pause, you begin to see what you couldn't see before, where their weaknesses lie, where their arrogance grows, where they've left the door open for a comeback. Imagine someone attacking you relentlessly, full of energy, full of confidence. They expect you to fight. They want you to resist. That's the game they know. But what happens when you don't? When you smile, step aside, let them swing at the air? Confusion. Frustration. Ego. They start second-guessing. They start making mistakes. They become predictable. And that's when the power shifts. Because surrender is not about losing. It's about pausing. Waiting. Repositioning. The greatest generals in history knew this. When they were outnumbered, outgunned, outmaneuvered, they didn't run into battle. They retreated. They yielded. But not in spirit. In strategy. And from that new position, with a better view, with more time, they struck with precision and won the war, not just the battle. There's an elegance to surrender. A quiet strength. It requires restraint. It requires you to silence your pride. To ignore the voices telling you to fight just to prove something. And that's why it's so powerful, because most people can't do it. Most people walk into confrontation swinging. They want to be seen as strong. But true strength knows when to wait. True strength knows that timing is everything. That not every hit needs to be thrown right now. Some hits come later, harder, and with much more effect. In negotiations, surrender can be a masterstroke. You concede something small. Something they think matters. You step back. You smile. They think they've won. They become generous, careless even. And then you ask for what you really wanted all along, something far more valuable, and they give it to you without even realizing they've lost the game. That's the magic of Law 22. It's playing the long game. Letting the short-term defeat become your long-term victory. But to use this law well, you must control your emotions. Because surrender feels unnatural. It feels like giving in. It stings. And if your ego is fragile, you'll abandon the tactic too early. You'll rush back into the fight to prove yourself. That's a mistake. Because once you choose to surrender, you must lean into it fully. You must embrace it. Let it play out. Let them believe they've got the upper hand. Let them lean too far forward, because that's when they tip. There's a reason the bamboo survives storms that uproot mighty oaks. The bamboo bends. It sways. It allows the wind to pass. That's what surrender is. It's the bend before the bounce back. It's the quiet before the strike. And it's a mindset that sees opportunity not in resistance, but in stillness. When someone comes at you with hostility, whether it's in the workplace, a relationship, or even in public life, your instinct is to fight back. To prove you're not weak. But sometimes, by backing down, by stepping away, you disarm them. You don't give them anything to fight. You let them exhaust themselves. You let their energy run out. And when it does, when they're standing there, breathing heavy, unsure what to do next, that's your moment. This law doesn't mean you always give in. It doesn't mean you never resist. What it means is that when resistance is unwise, when the battle cannot be won, when the forces are too strong, you don't fight out of pride. You fight smart. You live to fight another day. You turn the situation into one that suits you. And that's not cowardice. That's control. Think about water. When it meets an obstacle, it doesn't crash against it endlessly. It flows around it. It finds another way. It adapts. It waits. That's the mindset behind surrender. Don't throw yourself at every wall. Sometimes you let the wall believe it's won, while you dig a tunnel beneath it. In the world of power, perception is everything. And when you surrender, you create a powerful illusion. You make them feel victorious. You feed their ego. And in doing so, you make them less alert, less prepared, less dangerous. That's when you move. That's when you flip the script. It's not about giving up. It's about choosing your battles. It's about knowing when the terrain doesn't favor you, and being patient enough to find terrain that does. The battlefield isn't always physical. It's mental. It's emotional. It's psychological. And surrender shifts the emotional weight onto the other side. It makes them overconfident. It makes them underestimate you. And if you've learned anything from the game of power, it's that being underestimated is the most powerful position to be in. Surrender also buys you time. Time to gather resources. Time to study the enemy. Time to recover, to reflect, to reposition. And time is power. Every minute you're not fighting is a minute you're watching, thinking, planning. And while they celebrate their short-term victory, you're already building your long-term comeback. But here's something deeper: surrender teaches you to detach from your ego. And that's a rare skill. Because the ego wants validation. It wants to win now. It wants to be right. But power isn't about being right, it's about being effective. And the most effective move isn't always the loudest one. Sometimes, it's the quietest. Sometimes, it's the one that looks like defeat, but isn't. There's an inner peace in mastering surrender. A kind of untouchable calm. Because once you stop reacting to every threat, every insult, every challenge, you start choosing your responses. You stop being pulled by their moves, and you start making your own. You become unpredictable. And unpredictability is terrifying to those who thought they had you figured out. In any relationship, personal, professional, even political, surrender can be used to reset the dynamic. If someone is dominating you, controlling you, attacking you, don't always push back. Yield. Step back. Watch what happens. Their behavior changes. Their momentum slows. Their certainty wavers. And in that moment, the balance begins to shift. But here's the key: never surrender permanently. Always make it part of a larger strategy. A detour, not a destination. If you surrender and stay there, you've truly lost. But if you surrender with a plan, with a purpose, with patience, that's power. Power that's subtle. Power that's delayed. Power that hits harder when no one expects it. Let them think they've beaten you. Let them think you're out. Let them laugh. Because when the time is right, when the lights have dimmed and the crowd has gone home, you rise. Stronger. Smarter. Sharper. Not because you never lost, but because you turned loss into leverage. That's the real meaning of surrender. And that is the quiet, waiting, devastating truth behind Law 22.